Facepalm America, I'm Beowulf Rockland. FacepalmAmerica.com is where you can go for more information about the show, to connect with us on social media, and to listen to past episodes. Usually on this program, we talk about politics. Every once in a while, we'll talk about, classic movies or something like that. History is another big one of my interests. And really, that is going to be the focus of what we do today, but in a particular and in a special way, because in general, not often enough, and me in particular, I don't think I ever really have had the opportunity to go in depth with a person who has lived the history in a way that the guest that we're going to be speaking with has. His name is Stan Luther, and he's the author of A Lifetime in the Atmosphere, a memoir of flight. Stan Luther, welcome to Facepalm America. Thanks so much for being here today.
Thank you. It's my privilege.
So Stan has had a career, in a long career in the Air Force. He is, correct me if I'm wrong, maybe this has changed since last we spoke, 96 years old. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And the range of what he has experienced is just amazing. I have been privileged to meet him in person and get to know him a little bit. And I want to begin by reading an excerpt from his story, from his book. Again, it's A Lifetime in the Atmosphere, a memoir of flight. It was a chilly Monday evening, October 22nd, 1962, day 7 of the Cuban Missile Crisis. President Kennedy's voice echoed through the television speakers as he addressed the nation, and the whole country held its breath. For that moment, I was a 35-year-old lieutenant colonel in the 310th Bomb Wing of the United States Air Force, serving as a pilot of one of 6 B-47 Stratojets on alert at Schilling Air Force Base in Kansas. For 8 years, our mission had been to train for bombing runs with nuclear weapons, preparing for the unthinkable possibility of war with the Soviet Union. At 1900 hours, we gathered in the alert facility around an overhead television in one of the briefing rooms. President Kennedy's solemn voice filled the room as he revealed that Soviet Premier Nikita Khrushchev was deploying ballistic missiles in Cuba, capable of reaching the United States. The gravity of the situation struck us all when the president revealed that the Soviet Union was positioning ballistic missiles in Cuba, posing a direct threat to the United States. We were on the brink of war, and our mission was clear. We were to be prepared for a full retaliatory response. The silence in the room was deafening as the president's address concluded. The weight of the information sank in as preparedness went to DEFCON 3, and we exchanged glances, realizing the immense responsibility that rested on our shoulders. Our aircraft, once tools of military preparedness, were now potential instruments of devastating destruction. My life had taken a long and winding path, shaped by 17 years of military service, first in the Navy during World War II, before joining the Air Force, and I wasn't afraid to die. As soon as I received my orders, I would get into my plane and drop that bomb. But none of us liked it. That's an excerpt from A Lifetime in the Atmosphere, a memoir of flight by Stan Luther. Stan, that's just one small part, but an amazing part of an amazing journey that you have taken. Tell us where this started. When and where did you grow up?
Well, I was in Kansas, in the middle part to southern, and I was interested in flying. I'd watch people fly by and wonder where they were going. And I bugged my dad until he finally took me to the airport. And so I went flying with an instructor, my first flight, and I loved it. I knew that that's something I really wanted to do. So that's the way it started. I was a senior in high school.
You were, I mean, that's it's an amazing thing to be able to do if you consider it these days. You know, not many high school students get the opportunity to fly airplanes, but I don't want people to get the wrong impression. You weren't exactly rolling in the dough, were you?
No. I was a farm boy. We had a farm in Kansas, Kiowa, and it was not the days to have a farm because
Right.
the Dust Bowl was really sinking in. Crops just failed. Finally, the farm failed. My dad on the side wasn't his first desire. He was a plasterer and a cement finisher, and a good one. He used to sing while he plastered. So that was an interesting time.
Yeah. So, how did this timeline play out? You like World War II began. Was this sort of happening at the same time as you developed your interest in flights? And
Oh yeah, go ahead.
was was this how you developed an interest in flight, or
It was.
how did you decide to join the military? I guess is what I'm asking.
Well, I'd say it was intrinsic. I felt like I needed to participate, and so I was going to quit school in the middle of my junior year,
Mm.
and my father said, "Fine." My mother said, "Absolutely not. You will finish high school, and then I'll sign it." It required both signatures.
Yeah.
My mother saved me. Anyway, that's the way that went.
And that delayed you a little bit. I mean, if you had gone into the military at that time,
I'd probably be dead.
and was that was like, what time would that have been? Like, what year
Oh,
would that have been?
1945.
Okay, so you would have still been in the midst of the fighting, like hot and heavy,
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
right?
I'd probably be dead.
So,
This a dumb kid. My mother knew better.
well,
You don't you don't volunteer for that unless you're nuts. In my situation.
right.
Now, I'm not saying that you shouldn't be patriotic. That's not where I'm going with it.
Right.
But
Well, I think you've amply over the course of your career, demonstrated your patriotism. There's no question of that. But
I hope.
as the way the timing worked out, you just cut the very tail end of World War II, and
Well,
that was when
really
you began your training, right?
Yes, very much so.
Okay. And once you were in the military, how did you get to the point where you were flying planes, and once you were at that point, what were you doing in them? Like,
Well, when I wanted to be a pilot in the Navy,
right.
and the Navy said, "You're not qualified, dumb kid."
Okay. Huh.
And so I thought, well, hey, I can pass a physical. They said, "That's not what we were talking about. You don't have any college. You're required to have 2 years."
Okay.
Well, I said, "Well, okay. Then my choice is to get out." So I got out and went to college.
Right.
That's a short term recollection of it.
And once you were finally able to convince them to let you in planes,
Yep.
you turned out to be pretty good at it. What did they have you doing at first?
Well, at first I was in basic training at San Antonio, Texas, at Randolph Field.
Mhm.
Then I was transferred for advanced training, and my choice, they said, "You can go to fighters," and I said, "No, I'm going to go to airlines, send me to multi-engine." So I flew B-25s. That turned out to be important later. Anyway, that's the way it got started. So I went to advanced training at Enid, Oklahoma, and I flew B-25s.
And for those listening who aren't familiar with that particular kind of airplane, what did it do? What kind of an airplane was it?
It would drip oil all over you if you weren't careful.
So it wasn't a particularly well-engineered airplane, is what you're saying?
Well, it was a wonderful airplane.
It was, okay.
Absolutely. It just, that was its characteristic.
Okay, it did, but it had a few leak problems, nevertheless.
It did.
Okay.
It did.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
In those days, you look for the leaks.
Right. Mm-hmm.
That kind of told you where to look for it a little more.
Gotcha.
Yep.
And what were you doing in these planes? What kind of missions were you flying in these planes?
Well, at that time, it was all training, of course, advanced training.
Right.
And then I graduated at Vance Air Base at Enid, Oklahoma.
Right.
So that's the way that went.
Once you got your training finished, what did they have you do?
I went directly to, I had applied for special air missions. I didn't quite make that, but they sent me to fly 124s, big transport airplane. And I love that airplane. Big shaky, they called it. And it did shake.
Another indication of its engineering.
Yeah. Anyway, I loved it. And we knew pilots, and there was a bunch of them in the squadron. And our squadron was assigned directly to the Special Air Missions to Strategic Air Command. Well, they had the control over us. We acted like we were a wing, only we weren't. But we were new, and we were dedicated to the nuclear mission of transporting. They had an arrangement with England that we would not do any maintenance whatsoever on the bomb while they were in England, where we were on alert. So we weren't yet on alert, but that was later. But anyway, we hauled nuclear weapons back and forth between England and at various bases to the atomic bomb facility in New Mexico. So it was quite a long run.
Wow.
Anyway, that's what we did.
Again, we're speaking with Stan Luther. He is the author of A Lifetime in the Atmosphere, a memoir of flight. Now, while all this was going on, while you had stayed in the military, while you were gaining this experience, and while you were beginning to, carry nuclear weapons on a regular basis in the planes that you flew, you had started a family. Tell us about that.
Started a what?
You had started a family.
Oh, yeah. Well, we had two boys, and Nellie, my wife, always wanted a girl, of course.
Yeah.
And that wasn't happening. So we were on leave, going, home. And that period of time, of course, we were on the rhythm type system.
Okay.
And it's not very reliable, not like today. And so, sure enough, we got pregnant.
Okay.
I said we.
Right.
And she really wanted a girl. Well, it did another boy.
Okay.
So
wow.
I sort of took care of that. I got a vasectomy.
Okay. 3 was enough. 3 was enough for you guys.
That's what I said.
Okay.
And I told her, if you really want a girl, we'll adopt a girl.
Right.
But we